Hi, it's Chandler Hansbrough, and we're going to run through my top 10 all-time favorite funk guitar riffs. And at number 10 is Born to Love You by Royce. Born to Love You is from the Car Wash soundtrack, which was released in the same year as the film in 1976. The film is about these guys that work at a car wash and they get up to all kinds of mischief with their customers. The highlights of the film really are the Pointer Sisters, Richard Pryor, and George Carlin. Kenji Brown was the guitar player for Royce. In his introductory guitar part, he combines palm mutes with a sliding chord. And when the band come in after the introductory guitar part, Brown goes into this rhythmic pattern. Later in the song, there's a breakdown with just the drums and the guitar, and the chord changes. It becomes an A sus4 chord, but Brown is playing exactly the same rhythm. At number 9 is Funky President by James Brown.
Nasty.
Hey, listen to the man.
Rap Godfather.
Payback.
Cold-blooded.
Out of all the James Brown tunes that I've heard, this one has the most intricate guitar parts. One of the reasons is that you have two jazz guitar players playing on the track, Joe Beck and Sam Brown. Their collective credits consist of Louis Armstrong, Duke Pearson, Keith Jarrett, and Bill Evans, so there's some serious session players. So their approach is a little bit different. It starts off with one of the guitars playing this rhythmic figure.
Funky down.
That's the first guitar part that you hear. It comes in with the drums. And it happens on a very unusual beat of the bar. It's sort of on just after the 2, just after the second beat. So you have 1, 2.
Funky down.
And that continues throughout. And then when the drums come in, there's this picking guitar. And I find it really amusing that you would have a picking kind of arpeggio in a James Brown groove. It's absurd, but it it works.
Nasty.
Hey, listen to the man.
Rap Godfather.
Payback.
Cold-blooded.
At number 8 is Too Hot to Trot by the Commodores. This track appears on the Commodores live album from 1977. The album's live, of course, but the very last track on the album is Too Hot to Trot, which is a studio recording. Thomas McClary was the guitar player for the Commodores. The track starts off with this really cool riff that's mostly played in the bottom 3 strings. There's an open E, while McClary hammers on the other string. It's then muted. You get that D5 to E5, which is kind of associated with rock music ordinarily. And then the band come in. When the band come in, there's another guitar, there's an overdubbed guitar that plays. So the two together. And number 7 is You Can't Miss What You Can't Measure by Funkadelic.
Sitting here with a broken heart, wishing you'd come home, home. Sitting here with vacant arms, I just can't go on. Universal love. How y'all doing? Feel my blood, can you bring it
It's going from the second note chromatically up to the third. So the second flat third, which acts as a passing note to the major third. And then up to the root octave, flat 7, 6, 5. Now there's a kind of call and response between the riff and the rhythm chords. There's a nice little interaction there between the riff and the rhythm. A few years later, this same riff was used in the Parliament piece, Do That Stuff, which is from the album The Clones of Dr. Funkenstein. So essentially it was recycled, but played a semitone above. At number 6 is If You've Got It, You'll Get It by the Headhunters. This track is so funky. The way the band come in, the drums, the bass, and the bass clarinet doubling the bass there, it's just fantastic. The guitar player is Blackbird McKnight. The piece starts off with a berimbau. The berimbau is from Africa originally, but it's become a mainstay in Brazilian music. The actual pitches that the berimbau is playing in the track are G to A. And then McKnight comes in on the guitar playing a harmony a fifth above. And then Benny Maupin comes in on the bass clarinet, playing a third above the berimbau notes. After the introductory oscillations between the berimbau guitar and the bass clarinet, McKnight comes in with the band, with Mike Clark and Paul Jackson. He doubles the riff, but in between he plays these interjectory rhythmic parts. When the vocals come in, McKnight is synchronous with the rhythm in the vocals.
gotta get it.
The great Larry Carlton there. This is number 5, and Keep That Same Old Feeling by the Crusaders. The first guitar we hear is the palm muted riff. And underneath that you have these chords that are processed through a phaser. So every 2 bars, the first chord is a E flat sus2 that goes to an E flat major. The bass notes are going from B flat to an E flat. So it's a B flat 11 or an A flat major over B flat to an E flat major 7. The next guitar part we hear is an interjectory part that happens in between the vocals. Get these really nice slides. Classic kind of pentatonic riff there. So if we put them together, we get this. At number 4 is Listen to the Music by the Isley Brothers. This piece was originally written and performed by the Doobie Brothers, but the Isley Brothers later gave it some funk. Ernie Isley is the guitar player. What I like about this one, it's a little bit unusual purely for the fact that you have an acoustic guitar playing the rhythm. Meanwhile, the other guitar is playing this riff. And that runs through the song. It moves down when the tune modulates. Now the guitar part, the acoustic guitar part, it's very reminiscent of a popular piece from the 1960s by Sam and Dave, and it's called Soul Man, as some of you might have recognized. If you're going to have a top 10 of funk guitar riffs, it's probable that you'll have James Brown in that list twice, and so is the case here with Stoned to the Bone, or Stoned to the Bone as it's sometimes called, by James Brown at number 3.
Ooh, 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 I got a good thing. I ain't gonna give it up. I got a mighty good thing.
The guitar player on this track is the great Jimmy Nolan. Now, Jimmy Nolan is the guy that came up with the chicken scratch technique. So some notes are played, some notes are sounded, and then you lift your left hand fingers off the fretboard very slightly, keeping them there but not fretting them. So you get that rhythmic thing. So there's some interplay between the sounded notes and the muted sound. And they call that the chicken scratch technique, which Nolan originated and became the sort of mainstay for funk guitarists throughout the 1970s. There's some really nice lead playing in there, interjectory riffs that happen in between James Brown's vocals. And that must have needed some coordination. You don't want to be getting in the way of James Brown when he's singing. You know, you could get into trouble. You know, it's really nice melodies playing around the D Dorian. With the 6 in there, and it makes sense because in the rhythm guitar you've got the minor 3rd and the major 6 in relation to D minor. Very, very cool. Really interesting rhythmic interaction going on there. At number 2 is Cut the Cake by the Average White Band. One of the amusing things about the Average White Band is that they were from Scotland. I don't know why I found it amusing. I just found it difficult to put these irreconcilable things together. You know, the band from the Scottish Heathers, one of the coldest climates in Britain, playing this really earthy, funky music. They had the funk, no question about it. I remember when I was a kid, when my dad was into this music, I remember seeing them on TV or doing some concert, and you know, to me it seemed really bizarre seeing these white guys playing funk music. It was just a bit weird because funk music was predominantly played by black American musicians. And Onnie McIntyre was fantastic. I mean, in this riff that he plays, the introductory riff to Cut the Cake. I mean, if you were to take all the classic blues funk riffs and put them into one, you would get this. It's absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. If I may digress, you hear this a lot in some of the funk examples that I've shown in this video. You'll get that a lot. It's kind of derived from the blues when you get that. And then McIntyre plays this as well. You know, classic blues. And the mainstay of funk, that dominant 9 chord. So while that main guitar part is happening, there's another guitar playing these palm muted funky riffs. When you put them together, you get this. And at number 1 is Just Kiss My Baby by the Meters. Now, Leo did good there. That's just a killer riff, you know. It's one of the all-time greats. It's my number 1 anyway. The thing about this riff as well is a little bit unusual for the time. You know, you've got the that plucking thing. You know, that plucking in the right hand was you'd hear less often in 1970s funk guitar music. And those big leaps in the guitar. So there's some interesting techniques going on there. And yeah, Leo Nocentelli did a fantastic job. Absolutely brilliant funk riff. So that's it. There you have it. My top 10 all-time favorite funk guitar riffs. Now I know it's difficult to do a top 10 justice, and there's probably things I've forgotten, missed out. So if there's anything you think I should have included, then do let me know. Post it in the comments section. Thanks for watching.